Great for those of you who've joined us. Thanks ever so much. As I mentioned, we really wanted to see what we could do to help people through this time. We're having a number of discussions and a number of thoughts in that space, but we do realize that there are a lot of businesses and a lot of business owners and people in business and key roles in business who are really, really struggling at the moment. And so what we wanted to do was do what we could do to make a difference. And obviously, presenting over webinars, presenting over Zoom is something we're very familiar and comfortable with. And so today what we wanted to cover off is to give you a little bit of encouragement. Now, we'll obviously be building on these as we go through. And what I wanted to start off with today was a little story. And I thought that a story would be a great way to start off. It was one that I found hugely encouraging at a very difficult time in my life. And the story is about a king. And the king was noticed about himself. So he was quite self-aware, and he noticed that whenever he had a victory, he'd be absolutely elated. He'd be top of the world. He'd be so excited, and everything would be right with his world, and he was just absolutely thrilled and chuffed to bits. And then whenever he had a defeat in battle, or whenever something was going wrong, he would just plummet, and he'd plummet down to the depths, and he would find himself very depressed and really struggling to get out of it. And he noticed that he was going on this roller coaster this whole time, and he thought, this is not good for me. It's not good for the people that I'm serving as the king, as the leader of the people, because I'm on this roller coaster. No one knows what they're going to get when they come to me. You know, are they going to find the happy me or the miserable cross depressed me? And so he said to his, he gathered all his wise men, and he said, I wear this ring on my finger. And he said, I want you to put an inscription on the ring that I can look at any time. So when I'm elated and happy and I've had a marvelous victory, I'm going to be able to look at that, and it's just going to be able to temper my euphoria. Likewise, when I'm plummeting to the depths of despair, I want to be able to look at it, and it's going to be able to lift me up. So sort of something that's going to give me a bit of equilibrium. And the wise men went away, and they discussed for a long time. And when they came back and they finally presented to the king his ring back to him, and engraved on it were the words, "This too will pass." And for me, I just found that such an encouraging thing. It doesn't matter what I'm going through in life, time relentlessly marches on. And whatever moment we're in, it too will pass. And the current situation we find ourselves in with the virus and the lockdown and the shutdown, when we look back over history, we know that this too will pass. And so my encouragement for you as we start this is to be able to understand that, yes, things are bad. Yes, things are tough. And for many of us, it's going to have quite a toll, but to understand that it is going to pass. Now, when I say it's going to pass, I think for many of us, you know, any of you have sat down and done a trajectory around where this is possibly going to go to. It's a bit like that picture. There's this desert on either side of you. It's just as far as the eye can see, there's nothingness. And when you start to play out the whole idea around where things are going, how things are going to work out, you know, you start to think about businesses have shut down for 4 weeks, and they're not buying from people, and they're not spending with people. You know, what's going to happen? And the less money that's going round and round, the worse the picture gets. And so as we start to look at that, one of the challenges that we have, of course, is what are you looking forward to? You know, what are you focusing on? Are you looking at all the nothingness around you, or do you have a picture? Do you have a vision in front of you? One of my favorite sayings to people is to really think about who you want to be. You see, we can't go and change the whole world. You know, that lovely little story about somebody who wanted to change the world, and then he realized he couldn't. So he thought, well, I'll change my country. And he realized he couldn't do that. So then he thought, well, I'll change my village. And he couldn't do that. So he thought, I'll change my family. And then he couldn't do that. And he realized the only person we can change is ourselves. And when you think about that, do you know who you want to be? When you look past the dry desert of this current time to that future distant point, I often say to people, think about writing your eulogy. Now, what do you want people to say about you? At the end of this journey that we call life, what do you want people to remember about you? Through the trials, through the storms, through the dry bits, through the bountiful parts of your life. Who are you? Who do you want to be? When we start to think about who we want to be, what it allows us to do is it allows us to be that person in this moment. And when we can be that person in this moment, then that is who we will end up becoming. So think about who you want to be, and then be that person every day, and that is who you will become. And what that requires is for you to have a vision for yourself. Now, as you start to have a vision for yourself, it will allow you to have a vision for your family, for your business, for all those sorts of factors. And so we start to look at having this clear vision. Do you have a vision for your life? Do you have a vision for your business? Do you have a vision for your family? Because when we have a vision, it pulls us forward. People often say to me, well, what this whole vision and mission thing, what's the difference between them? One of the best definitions I ever experienced around a vision is that a vision is a picture of the future that is so compelling that it literally pulls you forward. And do you have that picture for yourself? It can be so easy in times like this, particularly when you can get stuck inside your own head, stuck at home. You do as many chores as you can do, and then you've got another chore, but you actually need to go down to the shops and they're not open at the moment because you need another lick of paint or whatever the case may be. It can be very easy to get stuck inside our head and look at the desert that we see around us rather than the future place where we're going to. Do you have a clear vision of the future that can pull you ahead, that can inspire you in this current moment? You see, a really clear picture of the future allows us to acknowledge the present and act with a future mindset. I think the greatest thing is that it gives hope. Do you have hope? Because hope can take you through the deepest, darkest places. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, when you find yourself, going through hell, the key thing is just to keep going because you're going to come through the other side of it. Now, inside of that, I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is new territory. I don't think there's anybody who alive at the moment who could say that they've lived through something like this, where the whole world is shut down. We can look back over history and we can see where countries have closed down, where states have closed for a while to manage things like the influenza and the SARS pandemic. There's things like the stock exchange crash. But countries, whole countries, shutting down for a month at a time, closing their borders. It's new territory. And it's uncharted territory. And it can be quite daunting territory at that. And we sort of look out. I chose this picture of a field because it's there as plain and as barren. But the key thing with that field is that it's also got hope in it. Because what are you going to be sowing through this period? Now, there are a couple of areas you're going to be saying, what are you sowing into your own mindset? One of the reasons we call our company Think Right is because when you think right, you act right and you get the right results. So for yourself, what are you sowing? What thoughts are you sowing? What about to your clients, to your suppliers, to your team members? I really encourage you to think about your thoughts, your words, your actions. If I was to go and record you for the last 48 hours, what sort of conversations have you been having? Now, we can't obviously see inside your head, but when you think something, often enough, it comes out in your words. There's that lovely thing that says, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become words. Watch your words, because your words become actions. Watch your actions, because your actions become habits. Watch your habits, because your habits form your character. And watch your character, because your character determines your destiny. Once again, there's that end point. Who do you want to be? Where do you want to get to with your life? So we go back to the beginning of that, and it says, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become your words. If I was to go and interview your team members, your family that's been living with you for the last 4 days, or the people you've had around you, what would they say about your conversation? Has it been positive? Has it been encouraging? Have you been wrestling with what you can do? Have you been sucked into, oh my goodness me, what's going to happen? Are you just avoiding it all and going, hey, this is a great holiday period? When you start to think about the way you talk, what you'll begin to realize is that it does indeed lead to your actions. You see, when there's hope and you start to think about, well, what can we do in our business? How can we look at serving our customers better? How can we look at serving our staff? How can we look at working towards a better future? It changes the way you think. It changes the way you act. And so that's what we want to be looking at. Now, many people know the old expression, you reap what you sow, and that lovely field there all plowed up and ready to have stuff sown inside of it. The human mind is an incredibly fertile field. There was Earl Nightingale called it the last unexplored frontier. You know, it's the space where whatever you plant will grow. So are you watching what you're sowing? You know, we're very familiar with what you reap, you know, what we reap, we reap what we sow is an expression that many of us are familiar with. However, a lot of people don't think through the implication of that. You see, we sow what we gather. So what are you gathering? Where are you looking for your information? Where are you looking for your inspiration? Where are you looking to make sure that you're gathering wisely? Are you watching what you're inputting into yourself? I know that for myself, when this all started to happen, I started to read the news a lot. Now, as a general rule, I like to read the news once a day. And suddenly when the outbreak started, I found that I was reading the news almost constantly. My phone was at my side and I was sort of like scrolling through, keeping a track on the news. And I found that after 2 or 3 days of doing that, I did not have a healthy mindset, particularly with the build-up towards the whole shutdown. And people kept saying, well, what's going to happen next? And what's going to happen next? And what's going to happen next? And all of these things started to happen. And my brain, obviously thinking a lot about my clients and what's going to impact them, started to do these whole trajectories around what's going to happen to their business. You know, Air New Zealand's, you know, laid off so many staff. They canceled their overseas flights. That has a huge impact on all people in tourism, all people in the hospitality, all people doing events and things like that. And suddenly you start to think about the ripple effect of that. And I found myself getting sucked down and really struggling to be positive and optimistic and like, we've got something, we can go ahead. And I realized that I wasn't sowing positivity and wasn't sowing proactiveness in what we could do. I was sowing too much doom and gloom. And so I had to watch what I was inputting into myself, because we can only manage what we can manage. I can't go and change the world. I can't wave a magic wand and get rid of the virus. But there's a lot I can do. And so I started to focus on things like watching TED Talks. I started to read a lot more around how other people are helping other people. And it made a big difference. I went, well, if they're doing that, I can do something. Hence, the outcomes of that sort of thinking is what we're doing now. I love the saying, I saw this when I was doing some training some time ago. It was on the wall. It said, life always offers you a second chance. It's called tomorrow. I really encourage you to live in today. But please, as we're in isolation, don't be isolated. Okay? As we have this whole distancing thing, please be physically distant as is wise and safe and healthy, but don't be socially distant from people. Stay connected. Tomorrow will come. Tomorrow is another day. And if we plan and work well today, it can be a very bright and beneficial tomorrow. Guys, I hope that this has been useful for you. I hope that it's managed to meet your expectations. If you've got any thoughts, questions, ideas, or suggestions, please do email me, mike@thinkright.co.nz, or drop me a note on LinkedIn. I'm aiming to run these through for the entire isolation shutdown period, aiming to give people something to think about, a different way of thinking, with the whole focus around if we can get the thinking right, we'll get the actions right, and then we'll get the right outcomes. So any feedback you can give, how we could do this better, what you enjoyed, so I can repeat it, I would really appreciate that. We also have a lot of resources on our websites, www.thinkright.co.nz, and So on that website, you'll find that we've got a resource page with a whole lot of business tools, from our weekly learning bites down to blogs and articles that we've written over a number of years. So please do feel free to have a look at those. And if there's anything else that we can help with, please do get in touch. We've got a number of people who've dropped in. Thanks a lot for those of you who have dropped in a note just saying thank you very much. Really do appreciate that. And very much looking forward to running another one of these tomorrow. So thanks again, and have the most fantastic and marvelous day today. And I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow. Here's to your success.